Hello, welcome to I Like Motorbikes. Today we're here in Wiltshire to a little factory that produces some incredible things. Behind this door there is a really special bike built by an equally special man. So let's head inside and check it out. Brian, thanks for joining us today. For those that don't know much about you, you've lived a jam-packed life. Give us a bit of a brief history. I know there's a lot to fit in, but just what have you done? How have you got to the point where you are today?
I probably forgot half of it, but when I was at school, there was a science teacher there, and he'd got an old World War II receiver at the back of the science lab. And I used to go in there on dinner time to listen to the amateurs in the world, and it got me interested in radio. And then the headmaster, he was an organist, and he'd actually built an organ at his home, and he wanted to have one built at the school for the hall, for the main thing, and I got involved with that really. So I did a lot of the wiring up, and I made a machine to wind all the coils for it, because it had lots of coils with thousands of turns on, that sort of thing. And I was doing that, and obviously it got to the stage where it needed to be ready for a certain date, and then needed some more work doing on it, and they gave me permission to miss some of the lessons. So I used to miss the lessons I didn't like English and maths, geography, which didn't do me a lot of good because I'm hopeless at spelling and I'm not very good at adding up, so that didn't do me a lot of good in the end, but never mind. When I left school, obviously that got me into electronics. I started at a radio and TV shop actually, as a radio and TV engineer, so that was my first job. Somebody had got a Honda 50 road bike, and I ended up getting one. And then what happened is, a friend was going to Mallory Park, and when I got there, Jim Redman was on one of the 250 Honda 4-cylinder 250 Hondas, and the noise was just unbelievable. I thought, this is fantastic, the noise, I've got to get into motorbikes. So I tried tuning up my 50 road bike to go and join the club at Darley Moor that raced 50s. And I did quite a lot of work on that. I didn't win on it, but I did pretty well for a modified road bike. It was a pushrod engine then. And then Honda brought out an overhead cam engine, and I did some more work on that. And was getting better results, still not being able to win with that, obviously, against two-strokes, which were the dominant bikes then. And then I managed to buy Honda did a production race they call the CR700W, and that was a 4-valve single-cylinder 50, 8-speed gearbox, gear-driven overhead cams and everything. It was still fully competitive against the two-strokes, so I wanted to make it faster. So I read all the books I could on about engine tuning, couldn't really get everything I wanted, so I wanted to learn about gas flow through ports and that sort of thing. So I did this silly thing which I used to connect a hose pipe to a water tap, and with a pair of goggles and blast the water through the ports and learn about what shapes of ports did as regards the flow, and realised that if you could make the water clear, obviously there wasn't turbulence going on. So I did a lot of that. Anyway, to cut a long story short, I ended up winning races with this Honda, beating the two-strokes, and I was actually 50 champion for 3 years really. I think it was 72, 73. I missed it by 1 point in 74 and then won it again in 75 on this CR700W, which was highly tuned up. I did my own cams and all sorts for it, built up pistons and all that sort of thing. So that got me into that.
But where did you build these? Were these just in your garden shed, or?
Yeah, really, yeah, just at home, really, in the shed and that sort of thing.
And what sort of tools did you have available to you to make all these modifications?
I did some of it. I went to night class at one of the schools and been able to use some of the machinery there, and some of it was just hand done, really. I'm amazed when I think about what I did. I'm amazed it actually worked, really, but it did. Then I got into a dealership, a Honda dealership, selling motorbikes. And I did that for about 10 years, I think, something like that. But it was in a time where bike sales were quite low, and then I got I got an accountant involved because there was too much paperwork going on. He actually done me really. He actually stole a lot of money, and it's had to close down. But luckily, a friend of mine turned up on one of the prototype rotary Norton bikes, and he said, "Have a go on this." And I had a go in, and I thought, "Wow, it's fantastic! This is make a fantastic race bike." I obviously said to him, "You must get me a job at Norton now. I've got to get involved with these." So I got a job in the service department looking after, because at that time Norton couldn't sell rotaries to any private people. It was only to the armed forces and the police and REC and all that sort of thing. And I was looking after their demonstrator bikes. I just realised that we could get a lot more power out of the engine, and I spoke to the management, but they didn't really seem that interested. But I convinced them to let me have a crashed police bike that had been lying in the corner for several years. An expense
and what sort
work on it.
Time was this? This was the mid-80s?
This would have been 86, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Somewhere around about 86. And eventually they let me have it, and I did these mods to the engine, because I said to them, I'm sure I can get 120 horsepower out of this engine, because at that time 85 horsepower was about the best they had. I put it on a dyno one of the nights, and one or two people were there and helped me with it, and I run it up, and amazingly it gave 120 horsepower the first time I run it, which I was quite shocked about really, that it said exactly what it'd do. So I asked the management then, can I build a race, some sort of a race bike out of the remains of the chassis that was still there? So they said okay. So I cut the back end off and put some tubes on and whatever, and took the bike to Myra, and it did 170 mile an hour. And this would have been about 86, which is quite fast for a 600cc bike, you know.
Was that the turning point for the management to then get on board with it? They started to believe.
Not really. They still wasn't keen on it. So I actually resigned from Norton actually, because I was into the electronics a lot at Norton. They asked me back, and I said okay, I'll come back, but with the proviso, you'll let me do a proper racing bike, you know. And that's what happened. So they let me do the first red, silver, blue, which was an air-cooled engine at the time, which was 87. And we actually run that, and we had pretty good success with it really. So I got Steve Spray, who was riding an RG500 at the time, to ride the rotary. He had to go on it. The first time I'd ever seen it really to sit on was at Brands Hatch, and he went out in practice. And he came back, and I went up to him and I said, you know, what do you think? What do you want me to do with it? What do you want me to change? He said, just put petrol in it. I'll ride it as it is. And he actually won the two major races there. And at that time, we'd got representatives from JPS there, Imperial Tobacco, trying to get some sponsorship. And they saw the crowd go absolutely mad. And that's how we got the JPS sponsorship. So that was really what started it all.
That's the iconic one that everyone remembers, isn't it?
Yeah, the JPS black bikes, yeah.
And you had a lot of success on them over the few years.
We had.
What's now the British Superbikes, but wasn't called that then, was it?
Yeah, they called it TTF1 and Power Bike, I think it called it. And we won both championships in '89 with those. That was the first year sponsorship from JPS.
Yeah, and how many more times did you go out and win on those bikes?
Well, we had lots of success with them. I think we had most of the circuit lap records at the time. Until you were banned? Well, yeah, but that came in 1995. Luckily, somebody from Australia came over because he wanted to see if he could buy some rotary race bikes, really. Right. And obviously there wasn't any for sale at the time, and he managed to get a meeting with me and asked me, can you make me two bikes for Australia, you know, to run over there? So I ended up doing that really. So I built two bikes in my dining room at home, using the nice glass cabinets to put all the parts in. It was great. Centrally heated workshop, nice carpet to lie on. It was very good. So so the wife Doreen was good letting me do that. We went over. We actually managed to get it entered in the motor, you know, the 500 Grand Prix race in Australia. But bearing in mind I hadn't built the bike for long, we hadn't done much testing with it at all. He came 15th, so we got a Grand Prix point, which is quite amazing really. We got somebody called Grant Hodson, He was an Australian rider there that rode superbikes and that. And we went to Oran Park, one of the circuits there, and there was an Australian superbike race on there. People like Ann and Slight were there, you know, top riders. And he rode this bike. He hadn't really had much time to ride it, and he actually won one of the races there on it. And that was with the gearbox going the opposite direction, what he was used to, and all this sort of thing, you know.
What are your sort of standout memories? If you were to just cherry pick a few of your favourite moments in those racing, because of course, like you say, you've had Steve Spray ride your bikes, Trevor Nation.
Yeah. I had a lot of riders,
Robert Dunlop, there's loads of great names that managed to ride them. What are some of your standout moments?
I think one of the big standout moments was probably when Steve Spray won at the Power Bike International at Brands Hatch, really, because it was very early on. It was an air-cooled bike at the time, and he went and won, you know, which was quite a surprise, and the crowd went absolutely mad. I think that's the thing. I remember going on the car when they took him round, and just everybody going mad, you know. So that was a fantastic thing. Obviously, we had some successes at the Isle of Man. We had some second and thirds. So there's several, really. There's just too many to remember, really. There's just lots of just the crowd, really, and the interest in the bikes. Because I obviously wanted to spend time speaking to people about them. Just had big crowds around us all the time, really.
Yeah, it's always been a crowd favourite, hasn't it?
Yeah, and the noise, obviously different noise and everything. And then you got to think like the Snetterton race, where it was televised along the straight there.
It's still on YouTube, you can see it.
Yeah, and the bikes just shot past them down the start and finish, and the commentator couldn't believe it. And when we was running the Duckham's bikes, which were actually but Duckham's bikes are actually the Rotron bikes, which I built for the Australian. But they came first and second in about 13 races, 14 races, I think. And they had a fantastic time. We had all the lap records with that as well. So it's just really good, you know. And just the crowd really enjoyed it, you know.
So let's fast forward a little bit. You went from racing with Norton to that relationship departing, splitting, and you went away and did your own thing for a little while.
I did the Rotron bikes, and then they ended up being the Duckham's bikes, really, because we got sponsorship from Duckham's. So we did those, and we ended up being the JPS pulled the sponsorship on the official team, and we ended up being the official Norton team then on the Duckham's colours. And we did really well with that. But 1994 was the last time we won the championship, and then for 1995 the rules were changed, because I think the Japanese were fed up with us beating them. The rules were changed and made it that the bikes were outlawed, really. So the only races we didn't win were if it was raining, because they talk about the Big Bang theory and gaps between the power strokes to give the tyre a chance to grip. Well, a rotary engine has got 200 degrees of power stroke. And because it's a 180 degree shaft, that means that the power strokes slightly overlap, which obviously is totally different from a big bang engine. So if the back wheel broke away, it was difficult to recover it again. Anyway, later on I ended up working for the National Motorcycle Museum, because the National Motorcycle Museum, Roy Richards, who owns the museum, managed to buy most of the rotaries that I'd built. There was a collector that had quite a few, and he bought a lot off him, and then he collected all the others. So he'd virtually got every bike we did apart from one. And he asked me if I'd go and overhaul them all. In 1995, I think it was 95, or it might have been 94, MCN did a two-page feature on this new bike I wanted to do. It would have been 95, sorry. And I found this. They sent me the original main copy of it. And I took this and showed it Roy Richards, and I said this was a bike a feature of the bike I wanted to build, but I never built it, because he was a Norton fanatic anyway. And he looked at me, he says, I want you to build me this bike. So I'll buy all the parts, you just get on with building that. So I built it, and that's what is the NRV.
Yeah,
so that's the NRV.
Mid-2000s, is that?
Yeah. That's the NRV. And that was, I thought that was probably the last bike I was going to do. And then I had this feeling that I'd like to have my own bike, really. So and I also wanted to make a bigger one. I wanted to make something like a 700cc bike, because that still meant that we could still fit in the ruling of a 1200 4-stroke twin if you had the 1.7 factor to it, which they put on rotary engines.
So then we'll go on to that. You wanted to build this 700, you had that idea in the back of your mind. So what did you take into that bike from what you'd previously learned, and what was new?
Well, basically it was all what I'd learned from before, but what I did was, rather than go bigger diameter of the rotary, if you like, I went wider. So in effect I made like a big bore 4-stroke engine really. So I made it wider. I went from 68mm wide rotor to 80mm wide. So basically that didn't have the variable geometry intake because I got enough performance without it, but it had got something else. I'd worked on like what I call a dynamic intake system, a cross-coupled system that basically sort of self-charges itself really. It's a bit like a no moving part supercharger really, the way it uses the wave energy.
So let's take that and jump onto the new bike. So it is mostly a new bike, isn't it, from what I understand?
Yeah. What happened was I was actually building a second bike prototype, and I actually got broke into, and they actually stole it. But Gilo, who obviously I worked for at Rotron, he said, I'd like to still build, and let's build another one. He said we'll design a new one from a clean sheet of paper, and Gilo said just get on with it and design it how you think it should be. You know, not trying to use any of the original stuff at all, and that's what this new bike is really. So there were belt drive. We're using chain drives and belt drive on the other bikes. This is a gear drive now. It's got an idle gear on it, so the engine still rotates backwards, which the torque reaction is to try and keep the front wheel down. And also it's got what we call a dog ring gearbox as well, which is it's a much faster changing gearbox made by Nova Transmissions for us. Going back to the engine, one of the problems with the rotary engine is that unlike a piston engine, you've obviously got a piston, a conrod, and the big end at the bottom there. All the heat's at the top of the piston, the big ends are well away from all the heat. A rotary engine being a triangular shaped rotor, the actual main bearing for it is actually running very close to where the combustion's going on. So it gets very hot. And the problem with them is because they're basically constantly firing, and you know, it's going through a complete cycle, but it just generates lots of heat, and that's the problem. It's trying to get rid of the heat. So this new bike has got a water-cooled eccentric shaft, so basically water flows through the eccentric shaft, which takes the heat out the bearings, and that's and obviously makes the engine more reliable, because the more power you get out of the engine, the more you're pushing the heat, and you get to a stage where it just overheats. The oil gets that hot, it just flashes off, and you get problems with bearings.
What's the longevity of the engine in this configuration that you've got today? What are you expecting?
Well, really, I mean, there's 3 moving parts in it, really. There's just an eccentric shaft, 2 main bearings each end, and 2 rotor bearings, really. So there's very little moving parts in it. And obviously, now because the eccentric shaft is cooled, the actual bearings are running a lot lower temperature, so you're not overheating anything. So really, it's all rolling elements. So really, the engine, I said like a race engine would do a complete season without having to do anything with it at all.
Another of the details I want to talk about on this bike is you have something called an ejector exhaust system.
Yeah.
And that, forgive me because I'm probably going to get it wrong, but it's a venturi caused by the exhaust, isn't it, that pulls air through? Sorry, you tell us, because I'm going to get it wrong and make a hash of it.
Okay. Yeah. The engine is water cooled, but the only bit that's water cooled is the outside. So the rotor hoses where are actually water cooled. So there's a water pump pushing water through those to the radiator, and that's what takes the heat out of that. But the actual rotor itself is still air cooled. So basically, the original road bikes were what they call charge cooled engines, what we make here as well. And the way they work is the intake is actually going through the rotor first to take heat out the rotor, but it then goes into the intake. The problem with that is it obviously heats the air up, which means is one of the reasons why you can't get the power out of it. So what I developed was this exhaust ejector system, which uses a venturi effect. The exhaust energy goes into a nozzle, which is in a venturi, and from the pulse energy it actually creates a vacuum. that vacuum is connected to the internals of the engine, and that's what pulls the air through the rotors to cool the rotors.
Take us through some more details on the bike. You've got the sort of Spondon-esque chassis there, haven't you?
Yeah. I've obviously go back a long way with Spondon. Yeah, they obviously built the first chassis we did in '87 really, and I obviously worked with Spondon for a lot of years on these things, and I just like we've got triple beam on the later one. We used to have double beam, but it's just a nice way, I think, to make a chassis really, and it works really well.
Take us through the spec of the bike in terms of the forks you've got on there, the wheels and all the other cycle parts that add up to the full bike.
Well, obviously what I've tried to do with this bike is keep the weight down. My goal was 130 kilos. You can't buy a MotoGP bike, so what I was trying to produce was something that is as close to riding a MotoGP bike as you can get. And because it's only 130 kilos and there's 220 horsepower, the power to weight ratio is very, very close to a MotoGP bike, and much more than the super bikes, you know. Obviously the other feature I've got on it is the single-sided swinging arm. We had very good success with twin shocks. I mean, in 1994 we won the championship with twin shock, and people used to think, why are you using twin shocks? And I said, because they work well, you know. I don't like linkage systems, but I prefer the direct coupling of like the twin shock idea. So this bike really is basically a twin shock bike with just only one shock on one side, because you want a bit of flex in the swinging arm these days. You don't want them too stiff, so you actually want flex there. And this design does give, a sort of an amount of flex in the swinging arm, which works very well. You
obviously got some nice looking Brembo calipers on there to try and hold this thing down, and some carbon wheels as well to help.
Carbon wheels, all to try and keep the weight down. Carbon wheels to get rid of the gyro effect. Obviously the Brembo brakes are fantastic. And but the thing is, because the bike is only 130 kilos, the brakes have an easy time really, because you know it's although it's quite fast, it's obviously quite a lot lighter to slow down really. You know, and so it's got all the gear on. I've tried to keep this has got Bitubu forks, but we'll probably be fitting either Bitubu or Öhlins forks for what people want. You know, also Öhlins rear unit or the Bitubu rear unit. So we're going to give them a choice, really.
The bike will be customisable to each.
To what the customer wants, really.
But I did read that at the moment there isn't any electronics package, so we're like with a lot of bikes now. There's traction control and ABS and anti-wheelie and all these gadgets and widgets.
My opinion on it is that this traction drive control system has just gone too far now. Because I mean, you can basically get on a bike in the wet, put it on full throttle, and you won't crash. Well, to me, I'm not saying that's right, but I wanted to make this bike so it will bite you back. It's a powerful bike, but you can still ride it like a moped. It's not, if you don't open the throttle up a lot, it's just as fast as you just got to use the throttle correctly. And I really wanted to get away from having electronics on it, but I think some people are saying that they do want it on. But I tried to make it, as I say, I tried to make it like riding one of the old two-stroke Grand Prix bikes. They had no traction drive or anything on them, so you just had to ride them.
But from what I understand, that hasn't limited interest in this bike.
No.
Already have some pre-orders on the bike, so
yeah, we've already had some pre-orders as well. Yeah, that's right.
Plenty of people that aren't worried about it having no electronics either.
No. I think because although the bike is powerful and it would throw you off if you open the throttle up, you just don't open the throttle up like that. You just feed it on nicely. It's got such a nice spread of power. It's not a brutal thing. It just pulls from nothing.
Brian, what are the plans then for the future of this bike? What are you aiming to do?
Well, obviously we've got some serious orders for it with deposits paid, so we've obviously got to make them, which is quite a horrifying thought, having to make them.
But likely to be 2022 for the first customer bikes to roll out.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it's going to be a 2 or 3 year project really.
For all 25 bikes?
Yeah, because I mean, if you imagine 25 bikes to time being 2 years, that means you've got to make a bike every 2 weeks, which is, we haven't got to start a production line thing. It's a hand-built thing, so they're going to be quite stretched out.
Yeah, of course. And do you have any plans to take the bike racing? I know that was something that was talked about.
I mean, originally the plan was to race it, but then the problem we've got is because of the great success we had, that the people don't like us being in their class. And I think because there's the superbike class has got to be based on a road bike that I think you've sold at least 200 of. I don't know what the latest spec of that is, but we obviously can't do that. So I think we can do things like the Thunder Sport series and stuff like this, but there's no real top racing we can really do.
So is there no appetite to go to the TT for the senior? Or?
Well, obviously that is possible, but we obviously need to sort sponsors out for that. But obviously we've been too busy with designing and building the bike really without. So I mean, if we can get sponsorship, it's just so expensive to do.
So if anyone's watching here and they want to get in touch to help you build a race
team,
they
want some sponsorship to go on with it. Yeah, but I mean, it's something that it'd be nice to race it at some point. But obviously, because we've got to make quite a few now, I haven't got time for that.
So tell us, Brian, about how your involvement with Rotron and who Rotron are, what they do, what they get involved in.
Well, Rotron obviously are a company that specialise in making rotary engines, although we are making two-stroke engines now for the jet boards and that sort of thing. But I obviously got involved with Rotron due to Gilo wanting to do the Everest flight, and obviously he needed to supercharge the rotary engine he was going for, and I helped him with that really. So that's how we got together originally, and he knew about me. And then obviously he asked me if I'd come and work for him, and I said I would, you know, because it's got so much flair and enthusiasm. You can't want to be involved with him, you know. And I've been here for quite a few years now. I think about 15 years, I think, helping him with the development of the rotary engines, you know. And
all the engines are designed in the UK, aren't they, here, and built at this facility?
All in-house. I mean, this is a completely new engine, all designed in-house, you know. And had help from Shamoon, who was the person that was doing all the CAD drawing, because I stayed clear of the trying to learn up the SolidWorks, etc., because I could see all the engineers pulling their hair out with it. And when I was saying, can you just move that? I want that just changing. They said, that's 2 hours work, you know. How can it be 2 hours work? But it is. So it's hard, and so I kept away from it.
But here as well, it's a bit of a special facility in that you've got the machine shop out the back as well to make tweaks and changes. And
that's right. Yeah, we design. Yeah, we obviously don't cast them here. We get the castings made out, then we machined them in house. Did all the machining in house. So it's quite good, really, being able to do all that in a house, really.
Yeah. So you've got a full makeup, things come in the door, they can get inspected, get machined, and then start getting built up, and
that's right.
Everything's put together by hand. There's no machines involved or robots or AI.
No, it's just me. You know, just plain old me at the moment. I'm 73 now, so I should be retired away really, but I'm not allowed to retire.
Not until you get the 25th one out the door.
No, that's right.
So it sparked a memory that I don't know whether you will remember this, Brian, or not, but when you had the old prototype, and when so for those that don't know, I did start my career at one point in Rotron. I was here a few years ago, and obviously being a bike fanatic, I kept drooling over the 700 prototype, and you came into the room one day and I said, oh Brian, if you ever need anyone to ride it, I'm happy to. And do you remember this?
Vaguely, I think, yeah.
And you didn't respond apart from laughing and then leaving the room again. That was my memory of asking you. So right. I'm not sure I'll ask whether I can ride this one and have risk the same experience. But if you're saying it's like a moped to ride, surely.
Yeah, no. If you don't open the throttle, you can go quite nicely with it. It's nice and smooth.
So we'll come back with a helmet next week then, and we can get out and have a go.
Yeah, just don't know with slick tyres on when they're cold. Because you'll be on your arse then.
Yeah, don't fancy that. Brian, thanks so much for taking the time today to talk about the bike. But before we go any further, and before we leave, can we get this bike out and take it up for a little start up and a run up?
Yeah, can do, yeah, no problem.
Fantastic.
Yeah, let's get it done, yeah.
Excellent, let's do that.
Right.
Thanks, Brian.
Okay, yeah, cheers. did you overload your microphone? Or your
Yeah, it overloaded straight away.
Thank you very much for watching this video. I really hope you've enjoyed it and perhaps you've learned something too. If you want to watch more videos a little bit like this, then click the link up here, and if you want to subscribe to the channel, then click the link down here. We'll catch you in the next one. Ride safe.